Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name's Jade, and this is The Interview. And today, my very special guest is Simon Head. He's known to me as the Everything Guy. And we're going to hear one of his tracks. This is Stop, Breathe, Think by Foursquare. Let's go!
To let us believe it was okay. We're trying too hard to get it straight, and solving problems doesn't make it go away. And your depression's gotten ways too hard to handle, so they say. So it was ended fast. Now it's too late.
Yo, baby, what's going on? Hope you're all doing well. My name's Jade, and this is The Interview. Everyone good out there? I can see you all in the chat. We'll say hello to you as time progresses. Wow, we have an amazing guest on today, and what a killer song, yeah? What a great message and really killer song. If you weren't bopping along to that, then I'm going to find you, all right? That's the way it rolls around here. So, first of all, you know what time it is. I need to let you know about our sponsor, and then we're going to get into this interview. And, of course, it is our friends at DistroKid. DistroKid are a one-stop solution for you to release all your music. Why am I telling you about this? Well, because I've been using them since 2017. I was with another provider, and I was spending way too much money and not getting my money's worth. So I have moved to DistroKid, and now they sponsor me. And let me tell you what, for a very, very low price of $22.99 a year, you can release unlimited amounts of your music, songs, lyrics, all unlimited. Get a Spotify checkmark, create royalty splits so you can split with collaborators, and you get a mobile app, and you get a crap ton of tools that you can use to advertise your music, get it out to other people, let them know that you're on all the amazing places like Spotify, Apple, Amazon, you name it. There's so many of them that your head explodes trying to remember who they are. Yeah, that's the way it rolls. They've got 2 other plans of musicians plus where you get an extra artist and a whole bunch of extra stuff along with it, or the ultimate plan if you're greedy like me and have way too many bands. And that is $89.99, $39.99 annually, or the first one, the musician, for $22.99. If you use my code, it's up the top. It's in the description. It's distrokid.com/VIP/ is it Jade Starr? Yeah, it is. You'll get 7% off your first year. So what are you waiting for? Go and release some bloody music. And as always, I love you, DistroKid. Oh, yes, I do. Anyway, enough of that. So I came across this artist through our friend Brad Example, who does his show on the weekend. You guys know Brad Example. He's a weirdo, very little weirdo. We all love Brad, yeah. And Simon came on his show, and I was blown away by his vocals, by his songwriting, and by his story. And I wanted to dig in more and find out. So graciously, he has said he'll come on, and he's here right now. So without further ado, let's get this shit show on the road. Let's do it. And welcome, Simon Head. Oh, yeah. Welcome to the show.
How's it going, Jade? Thank you for that.
I'm doing okay. I'm very excited to have you on.
Feels like that's some fake clapping in the background, or is there a real audience behind you?
There's a real audience. I keep them in a box.
Glass box.
Yeah.
The fish.
It's the fish, I admit it. The growing hands. So let's get down to it. I want to know, firstly, how you met this weirdo Brad Example.
It's a very funny story, actually, because I used to own and operate a recording studio. I still do, kind of, but I had this recording studio I used to operate out of my house, and I got this phone call, and it was this guy saying, "Hey, I want you." I thought it was a prank call, but it was Brad. like what kind of music do you play? Oh, you wouldn't get it. You wouldn't understand it. It's all over the place. I'm like, okay, it sounds like I'm being pranked here. And then so we ended up, I said, sure, come on over. And that's where I met Brad and Mikey and Dave and Dustin. And it was what a great band. I mean, they're unbelievable, talented, cool dudes. And they have 2 specifically different writing styles, the Inner City Surfers. Actually 3, if you consider Mikey.
Yep.
Brad is the most real person I know. He says things and he means it. And you think you're trying to put on an act, but no, he's absolutely 100% authentic, a real person that says whatever he fucking feels. Oh, I can swear. Yeah,
you can say whatever the fuck you want here.
He's like the realest guy I know. And I've known Brad for over 20 years now.
Have you seen him naked?
Yeah.
Hasn't half of Canada?
Probably.
It was the thing when I met him too. He was like, I think that was one of the first things he told me. He's like, oh yeah, I played naked every gig. I'm like, wow, there you go. Yeah, we love Brad. He's definitely very unique. And these are the kind of artists we need to foster, unique artists. I'm going to ask you this question before I hit you with the 4 questions I hit everybody with. Do you think music's become less dangerous?
Yes and no. I think the danger level is definitely, it's there. It's just not as dangerous as I think it was, say, 40 years ago, or 30, 40 years ago, like before
Right.
I kind of started. I remember my first tour, we were playing, I played in a band, we were opening up for a band called Down by Law, and that's Dave Smalley and 2 guys from the Chemical People, and we played this bar in like Portland that had like literally sharp skins and Nazi skins in the same bar.
Yeah.
And there was literally a line drawn down the middle of who could, and that was terrifying. Does that exist? Probably. I don't know, maybe in some weird venue somewhere, but that seemed very scary to me as this Canadian boy from the suburbs of Toronto. But I think danger, I don't know. I as new music goes, probably not. But there's like that English band. They all look like members of like Lemmy's band, like Motorhead. But they're not like these British guys. I forget the name of the band, but they look dangerous. But are they dangerous? They probably smell really nice, but they're not like full on. They look the part, but yeah. Who wants to do that? Who wants to be dangerous anyways? I mean, just making some music, right?
I probably should have stated what I meant by dangerous. I think danger is missing it, and I mean by taking chances and being not the typical, not the standard. I mean, it feels like to me the music industry. Well, we know the pop industry's always been like that, you know. But even in the pop industry in the '80s, you know, Madonna wore a glove, and just they were more outrageous. If we didn't have danger in music, we wouldn't have David Bowie. We wouldn't have all these people. It just feels like now there's nothing like that. Maybe Lady Gaga.
I think I agree with you there for sure. I mean, like danger meaning like, is this thing going to completely implode? Is there going to be a fight on stage? Or is there the music is going to start asking radical questions on radical subjects? I don't know. I'm not really sure. I would like to think so. Somewhere in some squat in Europe somewhere, there are these anarchists just starting like the new trend of music that are just gonna like turn into like this crazy thing, and then it's gonna get super popular, and then it's gonna implode. You know, I think that's what art really is sort of it's supposed to push boundaries.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to like question and challenge, and then it sort of recedes back like the tide a little bit, and then you get Nirvana. Weird.
Brad says, I always think if you see a band, you should feel like they would knife you in the alley if you go and see them. Yeah, all right.
Brad.
Yeah, we're all not you, Brad. Keith Richards is pushing the envelope. He's still not pushing up daisies. So that's amazing in itself. All right, let's get down to my 4 questions that I hit everyone with. Simon Head, what does music mean to you?
Music is different to me now than it was when I was in my 20s. Now, like in my 20s, it was like, this is the only thing I want to do. It's the only thing I need to do. It's the thing that's going to save my life. It's going to the thing. I have messages. I have words to say. I have things to do. I'm a 20-year-old, you know, person that's jumping in a van and traveling all over the place. I had like these blinders that sort of like made me want to like just screw the world. I'm going to go make music. Everybody be damned. And then I'm a little older now, you know, I'm a lot older now. And I have young adult children, and I have a relationship of 25 years. I think of music a different way. I think now I love music so much that I think that I should probably stay out of the way a little bit and let, you know, like, maybe I don't mean that, but I feel I should sort of like explain that music to me it's not like something I'm just going to go jump in a van and travel all over the world because they make no money and sleep on floors, and that's not music to me anymore, but it was. So does that kind of answer your question?
It's your answer, not mine.
Yeah.
If that's what it is, that's what it is.
Yeah, it's true.
You know?
Yeah. I like a comfy bed and a healthy toilet that doesn't overflow.
Yeah.
I don't like rats running around the band room.
I hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look,
So with music comes all those other things, you know.
It's been like 20 years for me, maybe 20 years. No, a bit less than 20, maybe 15 years since no, hang on, I'm wrong. So 2012 was the last time I was in a functioning touring band. I've just joined a band again at 52, and I'm so nervous about it. Thankfully, like, it's not a touring thing. It's a production. It's a thing that I can't even explain, but think gua. So there's costumes and all this stuff. So it's kind of, it can't do a lot of shows. So that's kind of comforting. But yeah, the whole thought of going back on the road again and being poor, sleeping in shit places really isn't inviting as a musician. But I think still, if you're a musician who hasn't done that, I still think you should try it just so you can see what it's like to live on the other side. And
oh, absolutely. You should like everybody who's like of the age of in their late teens, early 20s, like right out of high school, in between university or college, go out and travel. Whether you don't need to be in a band to do that. You know, I have a 22-year-old son, and I'm like, be 22 years old. Like he's worried about like, oh, I gotta buy a house or I gotta
No.
live like a life. I'm like, fuck that. Go out and be 22 years old because I did, and I
Yeah.
had a blast. Amazing time. Go do the things that you're supposed to do, and then enjoy life, knowing that you did all these crazy shit. And then sometimes, then life feels better in a way.
I couldn't agree more. Get out, travel, do it, see the world. Don't end up like 75% of Americans who don't own a passport. Don't do that. You'll be isolated in this blanket of nonsense. Sorry, guys. You know my stance. All right, let's move on. Do you recall the music that was played in your household growing up as a family, and who are some of those artists that your parents may have played, and did they influence you?
Absolutely. My parents were big Beatles fans. I definitely listened to a lot of Beatles. They had Pink Floyd. Um, the record Animals is a very, very close record to my heart, based on the fact that I remember listening to it like through the rumbling floors of from parties downstairs, and I'm up in my room and I heard these, you know, these sounds coming from the basement. Um, Definitely like Steve Miller Band. Uh, it's just these are all music that sort of transformed my life that ended up got me on a path to like, you know, from ELO I got to Squeeze, and from Squeeze I got to Split Ends, and from Split Ends I got to all that post-punk stuff, and then from there, then you know, it was just I was set off on the right foot, I feel, with all this stuff.
Split Ends, what a great band. Unbelievable band. And here in Australia, we tried to claim them as our own, like we do with anyone from New Zealand.
You got Crowded House. You got Crowded House. Is there a prisoner exchange like
Well,
weddings,
yeah.
parties that you
Yeah.
could New Zealand? You can have them, and we'll take Crowded House.
No, we don't give them anything. We just take their celebrities. We're like America to Canada kind of thing, you know. We just pluck them and say, thank you, they're ours. Because they find it hard. I think they find it hard down there to break through because there's such a tiny little country that nobody even gives a shit about. Like us. A lot of people think Australia don't exist currently.
Mm. Yeah, it's funny. I was in Australia on tour with a band. I was down there with SNFU in the early 90s, mid 90s actually. And when I started speaking to people from Australia, they were like, they thought I was American. So they didn't
Wow.
have like that definitive, like, because if you go to Europe and they think you're American, they hate you. Well, I don't know if they do now, but if you have a Canadian flag on your backpack, you're like the greatest superstar of all time, you know, and that says something about, well, I mean, it says something Australians just didn't really care. Whether you just say from the other side of the world, you might as well be from America, right?
Yeah, well, you know, we're fed so much American television here in Australia. You know, it's just a thing. So you know, that's Australia. We're fed so much. It's like when I actually went to America, I knew so much about America because it's so much of our culture, but it's not because our culture is completely different. It's strange. I can tell a Canadian. I always listen to key words. There's a few words that stand out that can help, I think. But great bands.
Story is one of the words. Oh, Canadian.
Great bands that influence you, definitely. Do you remember the first album that you purchased with your own pocket money, and possibly an album that was given to you as a gift?
First album I ever bought was Rush 2112.
Wow.
I bought it at Starr Town Center. I bought that record on vinyl, and we owned it. My brother bought it on 8-track in 1977 when the record first came out. And there's a very interesting, funny story that we listened to that 8-track cassette. We used to drive down to Florida as family holidays, and that's about 20 hours of driving. And I remember my brother bought it in Florida, and we were driving all the way back, like to Canada, listening to Rush 2112. And I could just see my dad's shoulders. And it's just this, it was like, you know how 8-tracks would get to a spot and then turn down, and then it would just flip again and come back the other way. And I remember turn down and see my dad like perking up, okay, it's over, and then click, and then it comes back up. He's like, shoulders are just, oh, fuck. So we listened to Rush 2112 all the way home from Florida. So I bought it on vinyl. The other record I bought around that time was Number of the Beast by Iron Maiden.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
Unbelievable, transformative record. Dangerous, dangerous.
Yeah. Yeah, Iron Maiden were a big influence on me. I grew up in a house where played Olivia Newton-John and stuff like that. I was an 80s kid, listening to 80s pop, and then one day somebody said, "Hey, have you heard this?" And I heard some Iron Maiden and went, "Well, fuck me." And then before too long, it was Cannibal Corpse. So
Yeah.
it's a downward slope very quickly.
Gateway. Yeah, Iron Maiden's the gateway to all the other metal, for sure. Like, Iron Maiden begat Metallica, which begat, Cannibal Corpse and all that other stuff, and then new metal and all that stuff that sort of came in. Like, Iron Maiden was definitely like the Clash was to punk rock. Iron Maiden was to metal, in my opinion.
What's interesting too, because there was a lot of punk that influenced metal too. Like, you look at Slayer. Slayer was different because they took a lot of punk stuff and really changed, because you had a lot of thrash and stuff, Metallica, but Slayer just took it to that, I don't know, the aggression was more punk. Of course, they had the satanic stuff in there, which was, one of the first, I think the first punk album I ever got was Sperm Birds, Something to Prove. Man, I still love that band so much. The Sperm Birds are so fucking good. I saw a video of them once, an old beta cassette, and it looked like they were playing in a sewer in Germany. There's an underground sewer because they couldn't get anywhere to play, because just a little bit controversial back in those days.
And early Iron Maiden with Paul Di'Anno, that was definitely punk rock inspired.
Totally.
It's only when Bruce Dickinson came in, kind of made it a little bit more of a stage show and flamboyant and things like that. So definitely, like, I wasn't a Di'Anno fan, and I remember having arguments with people about Di'Anno over Dickinson, and like almost to like coming to like fisticuffs about like who's the better version of Iron Maiden. A lot of like van conversations about who's the better version of Iron Maiden. But yeah, definitely, I'm a Bruce Dickinson guy. I met him when I was on tour with VoiVod. I was doing sound for VoiVod, and I met Bruce Dickinson, and I was like, dude, my 14-year fantasy, like, because it had been 14 years since I bought that first record when I first met Bruce Dickinson. I go, my 14-year fantasy has been fulfilled. And he goes, well, what was her name? I'm like, dude, dirty old bastard. Yeah. Bruce Dickinson, years later, he had a radio show on BBC, and he played this band Foursquare I played, and he was the first guy to play our record in the UK. So thanks, Bruce.
And a fine tennis player as well. Thank God he followed singing. Lars Ulrich was the same, I think. Lars Ulrich was a tennis player as well. Some people may say he should have stuck to tennis. That's debatable.
Lovely crop of chest hair that just says, I'm a man.
And I saw Metallica. I think it was the Black tour. Anyway, it was the one where they had the snake pit. Yeah. And I got tickets. I was in the snake pit, and at the end, he came out and he was throwing, they throw drumsticks out, and he walked along the rim of the snake pit, and he stood right near me and bent over and stuck his ass in my face as he threw the sticks, and he was wearing those Lycra shorts, bike shorts, and I was seriously just going, oh, yuck, I've got Lars Ulrich's ass in my face. This was certainly not worth $159.
Yeah. That's the definitive snake pit experience, I think.
Whole gig ruined in a moment. Hey, I just want to thank Cam G. May. Thank you for the $10 super chat. You rock. Love you, Cam G. May. Let's take a break. Let's play a song. Now, we're very lucky today, guys. We have a whole bunch of tracks here that are unheard. Unreleased stuff. So you're going to get this view today. We've got no video clips, but you're going to get this view. This is my this is my audio share, and we're going to play these tracks. I'm going to play. Let's see. Let's go with Open Eyes. Do you want to tell us about this, because these are all new tracks?
Yeah, definitely. I wrote the song a little while ago, and when 2024 hit, I made a resolution, New Year's resolution. I was going to just write and record more music, and I I started writing songs, and I just came back to this song called Open Eyes, and it's kind of like a relationship song. It's about, like, I've had a relationship for 25 years. This is the longest relationship next to like my parents that I've ever had with anybody. So I was kind of like, it's sort of like an open letter to my wife. It's sort of an open letter to my life, rhyme intended, to sort of say like, hey, we're getting older. Life is great, and let's have a good time.
Let's do it, folks. So pretend there's a video clip or just stare at the marvelous visual of audio share here. Let's do it. This is Open Eyes. Let's OGGG.
Part of me thinks this isn't real. Part of me thinks this isn't real. We left it winding into a sinkhole. Dark highways always feel cold, and it reminds me what you told me. When we grow old, will you still be here? What is the good of letting you steer clear? It's always the same with exchanges. With every day, I'll keep on your side. We're ready to stay, to try open eyes. Fill a thimble with hope, love, and heroes. Let it come simple to rebuild the future. It's always the same with exchanges. With every day, I'll keep on your side. We're ready to stay, to try open eyes. Too long, trust undone. I'll call your times to remind you. It's always the same with exchanges. With every day, I'll keep on your side. We're ready to stay, to try open eyes. We'll never complain about the future. With every day, I'll keep on your side. Ready to stay, to try open eyes.
Wow. What a beautiful song. What is it? Man, I remember growing up, lots of punk bands I listened to, yeah, and DRI, lots of punk bands I used to listen to, and would think, man, I'll bet if you put these singers in more of a commercial scene, their voices would just absolutely fucking soar. And it's true, like, and a lot of punk bands have such great melodies going on, great vocalists, and, they're overlooked, I think, throughout the history of great singers. what a fantastic voice you have, my friend. That's what drew me to you when I saw you on Brad's show. Same with Brad too. You know, Brad's crazy punk rocker, and he just writes some of the most fucking amazing lyrics, and so do you as well. Very thought-provoking stuff too, and just great harmonies. Did you always want to sing?
Yeah, I guess I did. I really was sort of like, I wasn't really much of a songwriter until like the late 90s. I didn't really write anything. I was joined bands, I toured around. I really didn't sort of like play guitar. I played bass in bands. And then I just sort of picked up the guitar and just started writing stuff in like 1996 or 7. And that sort of slowly became like more of a thing. I just started going more over to guitar and writing songs with guitar. I've always played piano my whole life. I took conservatory piano, and so I kind of knew how I knew music. I knew how to play it. But guitar was new. I didn't really own a guitar until like 97. That's when I got my first real guitar.
Wow.
Yeah, I really wanted to. Yeah, it's so funny you'd say that because when I first started this Foursquare band, I had like a lot. There was interest from people like record labels, and there was manager types, and there was the best thing people would say is like, "Hey, man, you'd be really popular if you lost 30 pounds and learned how to sing." I was like, "Oh, okay, well, thank you." I think because
Wow.
I knew I wrote pretty good songs. I just didn't. It's sort of that gives you like a bit of a complex of like. And even like one of my best friends ever said, like, I started a band with a different singer. He goes, "Yeah, it's probably a good thing you're not singing." I'm like, wow. So I take that as a compliment, and I appreciate you saying that. I definitely have worked at it. As you get older, it's tough. You got to keep working at it. Like I'm playing a show in 2 weeks, and I'm practicing like every day to make sure I have endurance and I can actually still sing. I don't smoke cigarettes anymore. I don't drink booze anymore. So I'm kind of like living this clean life. But yeah, I'm very serious about it. Like, I mean, I think if anybody who might know me knows that whatever I do, I kind of really commit to it like 100%. And I don't really, I don't take criticism well. So I really just try to do my best. My best is my best, and I own all the equipment so I can record. I'm under no real time constraints. So I can really develop kind of what I do.
I was the same. When I was younger, I was in punk bands and stuff, and people would say, "You can't sing for shit." And then I got into school and became part of the school band. And then I finished a degree in music, and then I was teaching people how to sing. And those people now, go fuck yourself, because just because you like death metal or punk doesn't mean you can't sing. Like, anyone, I believe anyone can sing. Even, it's just some people need a little bit of guidance, and that's it. People do really give some backhanded weird comments. I had a comment on a video yesterday. It was like, "Yeah, the music is pretty shit, but your vocals sound really good." And it was on a video where I was talking about drums. Like, thanks, I guess.
Yeah. Thanks. Enough inflection.
So piano. So did you have a school system that encouraged music over there in Canada? And interestingly, most people want to know, did you learn at school how to play the recorder?
I'm going to answer that one real fast and say, yes, I learned the recorder at home. That was like at school. That was like the first real kind of wind instrument I took up in like grade 4 or whatever, or 4th grade for you American folks. I took I would say that the music educational part within my area, it seems pretty good. I mean, it seems as strong and fervent as it ever was. I just went to my cousin's son, like my second cousin's like Christmas thing. It was people singing, people playing instruments, and it felt just exactly like what it was when I was like 50 years ago, And I think that when I grew up, there was a very strong motivation to play music for me, especially because it was sort of like was my identity, is who I was. It helped me out in high school a bit because I was a bit of a runt in high school, and as soon as people realized I could play in a band, it's sort of like, or play music, that became my superpower and stopped me from getting like my head stuck into lockers and whatnot.
I think it's a very similar story for many of us.
Yeah.
Mine was before music. Mine was telling jokes. You know, it's like, you're going to get head punched in. No, but I'm the person who makes you laugh, remember? And then it started singing and playing guitar in the bands. It's like, oh, you're the one who entertains us. We have to look after you. Yeah, go punch that dude over there.
Yeah. Like I still see people on, Facebook or whatever who I knew in high school. And there's like a few of them are like fucking assholes. And you're like, they add you on Facebook and it's like, hey, let's go hang out. And I'm like, dude, I didn't like you 15 years ago. What the fuck do you think I'm gonna do? We're gonna be best buddies? Like you're a dick. You spat at me in high school and I have not forgotten it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's that type of energy of like people kind of we're all stupid idiots when we're like teenagers, but some are just more stupid idiots, I guess.
You're totally right. I think we've all had this thing, especially if you've been a punk listener or metal or anything kind of guarded, as extreme or different music. I remember getting punched a lot going, fucking metalhead. And then as soon as we finish year 12 and we're all out in the world, running into those same people wearing a fucking Slayer t-shirt. And it's like, fuck you. And then, hey, what's going on? You still like metal? It's like, no, I've moved on. I've moved on. Like I'm
like Barry Manilow now.
Yeah, like I'm not your friend, buddy. Fuck off.
Yeah. I remember when Twisted Sister first put out like "We're Not Gonna Take It," and that was an anthem to the metalheads. That was like their anthem. Like we're not gonna fuck you, school. We're not gonna take it. And I remember that being such a badass sounding song. And now you listen to it now, it's like bubblegum compared to like what you hear now. Like it is absolutely it's soft rock, but it's anthemic, but I remember them standing on the table, these guys with jean jackets and tight jeans, like, we're not gonna take it. It's like a two-man protest.
It's funny.
Then I joined a band with those guys.
Well, it's funny about Twisted Sister and especially Dee Snider, people can look at it now and go, well, it's pretty cheesy. I'll bet they really did take it. Did they really stand for that? He was one of the people who stood up against the PMRC back in the day. He was in court. He was one of the ones saying, no, fucking stop banning our fucking music, So he did walk the walk. Absolutely.
He surprised people too. He surprised people like, hey man, this guy can form sentences and is literate and he can speak nice phrases and speak on a language that politicians might be able to understand. Yeah.
And I think I watched a documentary on them a little while ago. We were following their whole career, how all the different changes they went through and all the different molds. I mean, and if you out there, folks, go and look up. I'm pretty sure there's a few documentaries on them. But go and check out their history. It's a wild ride. You don't expect some of the stuff that was in it. Let's say hello to the folks who are here in the chat live with us. I normally do it around this time, probably 10 minutes ago I normally do it. Robbie Stingle's here. Ed B. Metal's in the house. Thomas Christ, our wonderful moderator. Doug Kidd is in the house. Type something in the chat, guys, if you want me to give you a shout out. We've got Cover by CQ, the Leela verse. Joe and Barry Glenn. Hugh Caldwell is in the house with us too. I'm scrolling up. Jenny Jolivet, welcome to you. Ed Zielinski's putting fires in the chats. Camp Gmail, we already mentioned for the kind super chat that he sent through. Who else do I see in my limited amount of space I can go up? DJ Big Red was here as well earlier on. Ed B. Metal, I think I already said. Brad Examples in the house. Anyone else down the bottom? I think I've got you all for now. If you want to say something, I'll try and call you out as we go on. So, you learned piano. So piano was your poison, yeah? Did you have a strict teacher or was it a fun teacher? Did you get smacked over the fingers?
I had a great teacher. When I was like 5 or 6 years old, we had a piano in the house and I just sort of picked it up and my first piano lesson, I actually wrote a song because I thought that's what you did. So I took a song to my piano teacher and I played her this thing with two hands. And I was 9 years old and I had written a song. And so she became my piano teacher all the way up until the 8th grade conservatory. And I think you can go to 10. So for 9 years, I took conservatory piano. I took theory with Patty Scott, who was my piano teacher. I'm not sure if she's with us anymore, but she was a fantastic teacher. She wasn't strict. The funny thing about it is that it was like a car ride in the morning. I'd have to get to get piano lessons. And I remember my mom being very like, you gotta get your regiment, you gotta do the thing. And for the first 3 or 4 years, I remember like resisting, like, I don't want to practice, I don't want to do this thing, it sucks. And then by the time I figured out like a few grades had gone by, and I'm like, oh, I'm kind of good at this. Then it became like now I'm practicing like an hour a day. And this became everything. It became my whole everything all the way up until like 18 years old when I discovered like alcohol, drugs, and ladies. I was like, it's hard to lug a piano around. Uh, so I better figure something out. And I sort of figured out how to play bass at the age of 14. I bought my first bass and I was playing like songs to the records and stuff like that. But I realized that the bass is a little easier to 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 pull with, as they say.
Ah, right. I've never played bass in a band. I play bass, but I've never played it in a band. I always like being the singer. The singer always gets the girl, and then the guitarist slimes her behind your back. That's the way it works. That's the way it works here in Australia.
I think the bass. I joined a band where I was like, it was just one guitar player who sang, so we were a three-piece, and I remember it being like really fun because it was like now I'm not just buried behind guitars, and I've never really played bass in a band with two guitars up until like this thing I've been doing lately. But I've actually never played keyboards in a band until I joined a band called Elephants and Stars, and they just released a record, and I play keyboards on it. First time like ever in my life I've ever played keyboards in a band. So, which is not like, obviously it's fun. Like it's I know music enough that I kind of know where it's going and I can kind of translate what's happening to my fingers from my head. So so for me, I don't really worry about what key is this in. And it's funny, Chet might be watching or Manfred might be watching, but it's like a jam. I just do it, and then it's tough because they say, "Oh, do that thing you did like last week." I'm like, I have no idea what I did. Like, I have no idea. It's sort of like this. So very what do they call it? I just sort of I jam. Improvisational, I think is the word I was looking for.
What was your first band name?
Oh, Black. Oh shit! It was a metal band. Black Faith.
Wow, Black Faith.
Yeah, with my friend Les Berman, he was like 2 or 3 years older than me, and he was sort of my metal head. Like he's the guy that got me into Metallica and got me into like early Motley Crue and things like that. And we're called Black Faith, and we played played 2 live shows in our career in high school. Black Faith, and we played like Breaking the Law by like Judas Priest, and we played like I don't think we played any Twisted Sister, but we definitely played like stuff that was like Whiplash by like Metallica and stuff like that. So
yeah, my first one was At Random. We did a gig with a whole bunch of Melbourne metal bands, and we did half our set of Metallica songs and got booed off the stage. It was awesome because nobody did Metallica songs at that time. But hey, you got to cut your teeth. That's the thing. So
they probably thought it was your music.
yeah, well, and we did our own stuff, and people thought we sounded like Metallica because that's what happens when that's what happens when that's your first band. So you move into now you've played with a whole heap of bands. Now you've mentioned a couple of times on here Foursquare. That seems like it's the main driving band. Tell us the story of Foursquare.
I was SNFU sound guy. I actually came to Australia with SNFU like 1995-ish, 6-ish, I think. And when I was in Vancouver, I basically lived in a rehearsal place. I didn't really have an apartment because I was sort of just waiting to go on tour. So I'd sublet a place here and there, but I mostly spent a lot of time in this rehearsal place. And I actually picked up a guitar and started writing songs. And there was a guy that sort of who I knew who had a studio, and I just started writing. I didn't even know really what I was doing. And I just wrote a couple of songs, and that kind of became the start of what Foursquare was. But I ended up calling it, it was called Doug. And that was sort of the name of the band for like 2000, like 99 to like 2001. And I think, you ever heard of a guy named Robin Black? He's like an MMA guy now, but he was like a rock star back there in 90s. But I remember he's telling our drummer like, "Who wants to be named the nerd in high school?" I'm like, "Oh, okay, makes sense." So we called ourselves Foursquare because that was sort of my favorite band like game to play as a kid. Is a game called Foursquare. And I just kept going. And because I owned a recording studio, I just started making songs and I started like just doing things. And what happened was there was a band over here called Treble Charger, and there was a guy named Trevor who played drums in Treble Charger, and he was a very like a champion of this band. I think secretively he kind of wanted to leave Treble Charger to be in Foursquare because we were like a cooler hang. So I got my friend Alan Shaw and eventually Paul Shedlich, who played in a band called Two Line Filler, which was like an emo, like straight edge band from like the early 90s. And I knew these guys. Like Al became and still is like one of my best friends. And we just sort of put this band together and released this record called When Weeks Were Weekends. And we put it out independently on a Canadian label and then independently on a British label called Boss Tunage. And from there, we ended up signing another record label deal with a label called Bad Taste Records, which was like Danko Jones, Last Days of April, Trigger Happy, all these other bands we knew. And then from there, we put 2 or 3 records out with them. And then just sort of just finding new record labels, touring Europe, and became a thing. And it's still kind of a thing. It's just not really, like I said, it's not like earlier before. It's not really like the be all and end all of what my life is anymore. It's fun to do. It's like people do like Thursday night beer league hockey, and it's sort of like that, where it's like I'm a beer league musician that doesn't drink beer, but I go out and then I enjoy myself when I have the chance to do it on terms that are of my own.
Nice. I'm going to quickly play a song from one of these albums here, just because I want to. I'm going to play this one. Let me just cue it up. Make sure we're all good. And Apple Music's working. All right, let's just play a bit of this, and we'll be back shortly, folks. Let's do it. This is Please Don't Go.
Brains falling apart. Let's make a start. I can't do this one. No, no. I know I'm missing a lot. I'm left with the thought, day in and day out. Left at odds with lives we led apart. Sweetie, please don't go. Don't take away everything, everything I know. I know that I'm wrong. Just try to be strong. Please don't go. Trapped, caught in a spin. Please let me in. Don't figure out what's gone wrong. This time is not what I planned. You've taken a stand, and why did I wait so long? Sweetie, please don't go. Don't take away everything, everything I know. I know that I'm wrong. Just
Yeah, boy. If you weren't tapping your toe to that, you need to commit yourself. Awesome stuff. I don't know what it is about this style of music that is. I mean, you can write really thought-provoking lyrics, really depressing stuff too, but the music's super uplifting. Like it's the harmonies and stuff. You know, it's hard to look. I've heard heaps of really depressing songs in this genre of music, but still feel so good after it. Like there's something uplifting about this style of music. It's kind of what nu metal tried to bastardize into metal, but they didn't do it successfully. I hate nu metal. That's me.
We were big fans of a band called the Get Up Kids, and also early Jimmy Eat World. And we were kind of on that wagon before the wagon was even really a wagon.
Yeah.
Like I remember seeing Jimmy Eat World play at a place called the Shanghai on Spadina Street. It was me, and there might have been, and it was this band Grade that was opening, and everybody was there to see this band Grade. And people kind of left after Grade played, and it was like, holy shit. And I remember my buddy Chad, who played in a band called Threadbare, sent me early Jimmy Eat World before it was even released, and he was buddies with him. It was really like early Sensefield, like all that stuff. That was all like our big like that's like that was our big influence as a band, and musically as well. It became sort of what our thing was, and it's like thought-provoking, you know, hopefully words, mostly words mumbling out of my face that were like that. Alan, our guitar player, would kind of make sense of it. It was a great writing partnership I have and had with my my best friend Al. He's smart, you know, and I'm kind of like, I'm smart, but I'm not book smart. I'm kind of, you know what I mean? Like I'm just kind of like, I can't spell well, but Al is a very illiterate. He knows grammar. He knows what rhyming phrases and functions are. And that's how sort of that band became kind of how it was. And we never really like, you know, did anything. Like we toured Europe like 5 or 6 times. That is something, but we didn't really parlay it into like thing.
I find that's massive because like, this is the thing, again, with why I joined a band here on the channel again at my age, is I want to encourage people even now to, if they haven't done it, go and do it. Go and play an open mic. Go and do something. Get out of YouTube and go and do something live, because there's nothing that beats that feeling of, especially when you land on a tarmac of another country, going, oh fucking hell, we're going to play music in another country, and your music has taken you all around the world. So you've played with Red Fisher, Two Line Filler, Trigger Happy. And where are some of the places you've toured? Where have these bands taken you?
The first band, Trigger Happy, we were called Kingpin at the time. That took us across Canada and the United States a couple of times. Red Fisher, I did North America twice at least, like 3 times we did like North America, where you'd sort of cheat and lie your way into America and say like, you know, the border crossing guard would say, what are you doing in America? And there's like these 4 sweaty dudes like, we're going to go record in this thing that doesn't exist, and there's going to be somebody who's going to answer the phone in a certain way that's going to hopefully get us into America. And I remember we'd get to the border crossing, and you're like, our whole summer is hinging on this moment.
Yeah.
We could very well get turned away and not figure it out, and maybe even get thrown in jail. And thankfully that never happened. But I remember like getting into America, like we had somebody from Sub Pop got us into America for like on a Red Fisher tour, and she's like, well, I just basically cold called Sub Pop, and I'm like, can you get us into America? Like, they had no idea who we were. And she said, well, name 2 bands on Sub Pop. I'm like, well, Nirvana and Coffin Break. That's all I had. And they're like, okay, you're in. So they send us this letter saying we're going to be on fucking, you know, on their label and stuff. And yeah. So yeah. And then when Foursquare kind of started, we signed a European record deal with Bad Taste Records, and we had all of our distribution was happening through Germany and Italy and UK for the better part. So we went over there, and our first tour was opening for the Weaker Thans, and Jason Tate from the Weaker Thans, the drummer, played in Red Fisher. He was like, that was one of his first bands. So I played in a band with Jason. So that's where I kind of got the Foursquare on these Weaker Than shows. And then we got on this other tour, a couple of with Sum 41. And Sum 41, I was their first tour manager. So I ended up like, it's all like the network of knowing these people. And they were like, there was no reason for us to be on these opening slots with Sum 41 in front of like 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 people a night. But we got it. We got these opening spots. And yeah, so I've actually toured like different parts of the world more as a sound person than as a musician. But the music part's fun because, we opened up for 10 Foot Pole and we shared a bus with them. And that was, it was an exercise in how Americans are different from Canadians. They're great dudes. They ain't Canadian, So yeah, that's sort of how the traveling part of music. It's getting tougher and tougher to do.
Sure.
I don't know if you ever heard of a band from Canada called Boys Night Out, but they had an amazing record called Trainwreck, and it was like 20 years ago this record came out, but they just sold out a 1,500 capacity venue, and I used to do their sound, and they're going to go out and tour, and they're going to tour like a band, and they're all in their 40s. It's like they're just going to go out and do it, I commend them for it, but it's like it's a very difficult thing to do, to tour. And it was back then, you know what I mean? Flights are ridiculously expensive. Gas is unbelievably expensive. And everything's more expensive. Food's expensive. Ironically, the show pay is still the same.
But it is about the risk, isn't it? Like that's the driving force behind going out and playing. You know it's going to be hard, and you're risking a lot. And sometimes it doesn't pay off, but when it does, man, there's sometimes, look, money's nice. I mean, we all need it to eat, but it can't buy moments. And, moments stay with you unless your brain's fried on drugs, you may lose those moments, So.
It's true.
It is. So I'm going to play another song, and then we're going to hear from our sponsor, and then we're going to talk about your podcast, managing artists, because you've done so much. There's such a wide variety of things that you've done. It's very, very impressive. I'm going to play another one of these tracks that you've sent in. I'm going to play, would you like to pick one of them? They've got Rainbows, In the Delivery, Winners.
Let's do In the Delivery. That's the power pop sensation hit of 2025.
Nice.
I've predicted it. It will be. It shall be.
The perfect intro right there. Let's do it. This is In the Delivery. Let's ja. You didn't lie. That was fucking tits.
That's the most Australian thing I've heard all day.
I'll start breaking out the Aussie stuff now. That was, man, I love your voice so much. It was the one thing when you were on Brad's show, you had some sound troubles there, but I didn't give a shit because I could hear your voice absolutely clean as a whistle, and that was awesome. You got such
Acapella.
Yeah, look, you got such a great voice, and it really comes through. It just cuts through that mix. Let's talk about recording because my whole show here is about trying to encourage people to make their own music. We're a whole lot of home recording artists here. The times have changed from when I was a kid and I hit my first studio, and it was all analog tape, and it cost an arm and a leg to go and sit there with some guy you barely knew who was going to make your music, who try and understand what you've got within a few days, and it didn't always work on such a shoestring budget. But now we're in this era of home recording and people can do it themselves. You've been recording artists for a long time, thousands of artists, yeah? What do you think of this new home recording revolution? Is it fucking up the music industry, or is it a good thing?
No, it's the best thing ever. I mean, the best part of creating music is not having to worry about what is this going to cost me?
Yeah.
Is this guy going to go out for his 9th cigarette today? Is he going to why am I paying this guy to basically not do a very good job? And if you do your own thing, you're basically owning the fact that, well, maybe it's not going to sound amazing, but it'll feel better and it'll be a better song because you're not under the constraint of the clock. And gear is so cheap now. You can buy a microphone, a console, a computer, software, and under $1,000 and be ready to do something. It's unbelievable how much better it is than it was. When I even started with my own stuff, I had ADATs, which was glorified VHS machines.
Mm-hmm.
And these things were just unbelievable. They were so unreliable. I remember I used to tour all over Canada with my studio and traveling and record bands in their houses. So I would just go to their house, in Sault Ste. Marie or Thunder Bay or Regina or anywhere, and just set up in a basement and record bands. And I sort of I was called by my friend Rob Sanser. He called me the Johnny Appleseed of punk rock because I would just go all over Canada and record bands. And it wasn't awesome. I wasn't great, but it was it was sort of a new thing. It was there was no recording studios in Calgary when I went there, and I would go to Calgary for literally a month. I was in Calgary recording bands. I was in Thunder Bay for 2 weeks. I was in, you know what I mean? It was just this sort of untapped resource of things and places and exciting things. And it helped because I toured with SNFU that I would meet the opening band. So your band's pretty good. And I'll record you and I'll give you a rate if you find me 2 more bands to record. And that was sort of that was how my business model started. Yeah. So I know, I did that all the way up until for almost 4 or 5 years. I didn't have a house. I sleep in my old bed at my parents' house because I didn't need an apartment. But yeah, this is the long way of answering your question. But I think that home recording, fucking Billie Eilish made her whole career by recording this hit record in her bedroom.
Yeah.
You cannot deny the fact that something hit with that. And would it have been the same had they been in a big fancy schmancy recording studio? Maybe, but maybe not. So, I'm a true proponent. I'm very strongly against major big recording studios because unless it's something that somebody else is paying for, then go for it, have at it. Or go there and do certain thing. There's a console that does drums. They sound amazing when you record. Anything you plug into this console sounds amazing. Then we'll go do drums there and then bring everything home and record the rest at your house. That is definitely a very, very strong thing. And it is hurting the big studios, but they have to learn how to diversify. That's how this world works. Just figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely. So moving around like that, I mean, that's just incredible. Moving around, having a mobile kind of studio, and I agree 100%. There's been albums when I first started, we hit a big studio. We paid more and more each time, and then it got to the point where we just go, let's just go to the big studio and record drums, get all the drums done, take those away, and then just sit at home and add everything over whenever we want. You know, as long as you got that bass there, that was such a thing. I did that on so many albums. But then time goes on, and now I've got an electronic drum kit. I don't even need to do that now. So everything just sounds great. I can put whatever drum kit I want on there.
There is something to be said about having that pressure of a clock. I did it once, like in March. I went and paid for recording time with a producer about 2 or 3 hours from my house. And I really I got to come here. I got to deliver. I really got to pull this shit together. And some of those songs like that, Open Eyes, like that's 2 takes of the vocals, you know, and the guitars are like 1 or 2 takes. The drums are like 1 or 2 takes. Everything is like, bam, fast, because there's like, well, fuck, we got to pull our shit together because we got to be like professional here. And so there is something to be said about having to sort of impress that person behind the console, or the producer, whoever holds whatever title that they hold, is that you got a captive audience. You better come to the party with ready to go, you know. So that, you know, there is a place for it.
I think so too. I always say to people on this channel, you know, hey, if you've got some songs, you go to a studio and pay somebody just for a couple of hours just to play them the music you have, and get some opinions. Even if you don't go and record with them, they'll take your money to give you some fucking opinions. You'll walk away with some valuable information, even if you don't record there. People have valuable stuff to tell you, even though you're not paying them thousands of dollars. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a producer now, Michael Beinhorn, that doesn't even go to the studio anymore. He takes like recordings that people send him, and then he gives them their notes, and then they go back to the studio and finish it. And these are like major label recording artists. He'll just sit there, send him an email, take the tracks, and go, "Oh, trim this part, do this and do that." And he's not even there. He's just consulting. It is, there's something to be said about that. I mean, like, he's figured it out where he doesn't need to jump in a plane and stay in a hotel and eat shitty food, and he can still be a producer.
And what you said about Billie Eilish too, like, she made that album on GarageBand for the longest time as an iOS music creator. I mean, you know, we've been laughed at for the longest time. When I was in America and I met people there, I was constantly introduced to people as like, this is Jade from Australia. Jade makes music on iPad with GarageBand. And people would seriously roll their eyes and be like, oh, right. Be like, well, hang on, how is that any fucking different to what you're doing in a studio? Like, the iPad's a fucking computer. But okay, sure. But yeah.
Well, I mean, there is definitely like a place for it. Absolutely, there's a place for it. I don't think just because it's on an iPad you should lose any validity. It's not that the iPad isn't going to make you a great songwriter.
No.
The iPad is just there. It's your tool that you can do the thing. And I say, I applaud that. I think, man, if you can make a hit song on GarageBand is basically Logic. It's like kind of iMovie from Final Cut Pro. It's all the same guts and nuts and bolts. It's all there. It's just really easy to use. And why is that a bad thing?
Yeah, it all comes down to the song at the end of the day. It's not the gear you're using. If the song sucks, you sucks. Sorry.
Yeah. I remember they're looping like the guitar things. You put the chords in whatever style, and it plays the looping, like this sort of like these kind of cool chords, that finger plucking thing that I didn't know how to do. And I'm like, dude, I should just put this and make the song on GarageBand and take it and throw it back into Pro Tools. And then that'll be my guitar part. And there's a few times like on the records where you hear this tremolo guitar and it's me playing it on a keyboard, but it literally sounds like it's on a guitar with a tremolo, because I didn't have a tremolo pedal. So I just played it in GarageBand, exported it out, and threw it into my DAW de jour, or whatever I was using at the time.
And then from there, you can release your own music. And speaking of segue, let's hear from our sponsor right now. Let's do it. This presentation is proudly sponsored by DistroKid. Introducing DistroKid, your ultimate music distribution solution. For just $29.99 a year, DistroKid empowers you to release unlimited tracks on all major music platforms worldwide, including Spotify, Apple Music, TikTok, and so many more. Plus, use my link distrokid.com/VIP/JadeStarr and get 7% off your first year. You'll also keep 100% of your royalties and gain access to valuable tools like instant verification on Spotify and detailed revenue analytics. Don't let your music go unheard. Join DistroKid today and take your music career to the next level. Thank you, DistroKid, for sponsoring today's presentation. Yes, indeed. Thank you so much, DistroKid, for your continued support of this tiny little channel that pushes the envelope every single day. So
I don't know if this is just simpatico, but I just uploaded to DistroKid Foursquare's first album that came out in 2001. It's coming out next week on Spotify. I didn't, oh, actually on all the things, but I didn't know that was like, I should have actually used your 7%. I wonder if I can still retroactively get my 7% discount on this.
I don't think you can actually. I wish. I'll give him a call.
Yeah, I speak to DistroKid. Hello, DistroKid. Yes, give them free. Yeah, no, it's amazing. I mean, that's so easy to use. I mean, that there was like CD Baby, and then that, and then DistroKid's just like, screw it. This is the way to do it. That's where I've landed.
Yeah, I think DistroKid formed from TuneCore. If I know somebody, the owner kind of left TuneCore. I think that's the history, and was like, I think there's a cheaper way to do it. I remember that's when I kind of moved back in 2017 and went, holy shit, I'm spending like $400 a year to have all these albums out, and I'm barely making $50. Like, no, there's got to be a cheaper way. I can't afford $400, and I end up losing albums from the stores because I just couldn't afford to pay $400 a year. So,
yeah.
you know,
is there a way too where you can say, pay like a one fee and it just stays there forever? Is that with Spotify, or is that with DistroKid, where you just give them like I think it's like $50 and it just stays on Spotify for till the end of time? Yeah,
there's a little check mark you can pay extra when you upload your song, and it leaves it there forever, kind of thing, in case you kind of die or something like that. I know I've done a few releases like that, and even Manny from the Lily Pillies here. Hello, Manny, says it's got a new release out next week. We'll be looking forward to that. Now, you've done so much. You mentioned, you know, one of my favorite bands, VoiVod. I fucking love that band so much. They were so before their time. I remember the first time hearing them going, fuck, it's like Pink Floyd but metal, but off the wall. You've done managing, live engineering. How did you get into doing all of this stuff? I know this is one of the things I think that people miss. I'm probably going to answer this for you, but metal, the punk scene, it is a lot of incestuousness, and we all drummers end up playing with this band and filling in here, and we all know each other, and we're all a part of. It's a very tight community. And is that how you got into this? And how did you become trusted to become a manager? Because managers are known to be slimy cunts.
Well, you don't know me that well. What I did is I was always a musician, but I always sort of thought, like, if I went and got a real job, I'm going to have to, like, it's going to screw up my whole plan about being a rock star. So I better figure out kind of like how I'm going to fit in so I can stay adjacent to music and how I'm going to make some money. So I kind of, like, in the early 90s, my first tour was doing sound for a band called Mal Havoc, which was like an industrial metal band, kind of ahead of their time, actually, along the lines of like early, like Skinny Puppy and things like that. And so I toured with them. That was my first ever tours with them. I didn't actually get paid, but I didn't pay anything. It was like one of the first things I ever did. And I kind of got the bug because I thought, oh, like, you know, I can still, like I said, make some money, and I can live a life, but I can also play music and I can stay close to it. Because so many of my friends were kind of like getting a job and being a banker or being a lawyer or being a normal person. And I'm like, well, if I become a normal person, I'm basically giving up the dream of rock supremacy. So everybody who plays music sort of secretly wants to be Bon Jovi. They don't want to play Bon Jovi. I mean, I don't even think Bon Jovi wants to be Bon Jovi. But I think that's that dream of like writing that anthemic, beautiful rock and roll song that the world's going to sing, and that was sort of my dream. And so my only way of actually staying close, adjacent to it, was to sort of work for bands. So I invested some money. I got my own recording studio that was sort of, like I said, in road cases in a van, and I traveled far and wide doing that. And that became who I was. Like I was also then I became more of like a recording engineer than I became a musician, and I was okay with that. And then it only really sort of like in the early 2000s where I jumped back more into music. Because it was like I was getting to a point where I was touring all the time. I wasn't at home a lot, and it wasn't really like super exciting anymore. And there was moments where I was like, "Oh fuck, I don't know if I really want to do this anymore," because it's eating shitty food, it's away from home, missing your partner or whoever.
You're really selling that on the road dealer.
Yeah, it fucking sucks. Especially when you're trying to like, hey, I think that we should be getting our full $200 pay because blah, 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 blah. And then the promoter's like, well, there's only 40 people here. You owe me money. It's like,
fuck off.
Those are the things I didn't really like enjoy being a tour manager. But yeah, I got into tour management. I did one tour with VoiVod. I was their tour manager for the Negatron album when they had the different singer. It was Eric. Eric was they're funny. There's a documentary that's coming out on VoiVod. I just saw an announcement.
Oh wow!
Yesterday. There's going to be a new documentary on VoiVod. It's going to be amazing. But they I was sort of around when they were a three-piece, and they were sort of like failing a little bit and just sort of figuring out what they were doing. And they literally came around again. They became like they got like a Songwriter Hall of Fame or something, and this next thing you know, they're back, they're current, and they're amazing. I mean,
We Are Connected, it's called. Is that it? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what it's called. Yeah. And having Jason Newsted being the champion and also playing in the band for a while, that doesn't hurt for VoiVod.
Definitely.
Yeah. But I toured with SNFU. I became their sound guy just after in the middle of the Voted tour, one vote of most likely to succeed. And then I became their guy. And I was like, I replaced this guy, Limo, who also worked for NoFX. He was NoFX's like stage guy. He was doing front of house. And I jumped in the van when he jumped out of the van. And then we basically toured all over North America. We went to Australia and New Zealand. I never made it to Europe with them, but we toured North America like 4 or 5 times, and played keyboards on Bobbit, which is a Fulaba, which is one of their records on. I was the Epitaph Years guy, so when they were in Epitaph, yeah. And then since then, and after that, I worked for Good Riddance for a little while. I worked for Sum 41. Those are like big tours that I can really remember. Everything else is sort of like one-offs here and there where it's not even worth talking about, but like little things here and there where it's like, hey, come out and do the sound for the thing. And yeah, but yeah, that's my sound journey.
It's, as you said, like, most people grow up and they're on their bed, they've got a hairbrush and they want to be the rock star. It's very rare that you'll see somebody jumping around on the bed in a business suit going, I want to manage. Oh, look, there probably is. So sorry if that was you out there. If you can think about it, it's happened. So, no offense to those of you out there, but it is an integral. I did a rant on this channel a little while ago about this kind of stuff, that there are other avenues in music that are equally as important than just being the rock star. There's, people who make soundtracks for television and movies and managing, all this kind of stuff. The only experience I've ever had with managing was I was living in Queensland, intense touring, were bringing out Brutal Truth. They didn't have somebody in Queensland to book a venue, and I happened to know the guy, and I went and found a venue in this tiny little town in Toowoomba, and then seeing them come along and see the venue that I booked and all that was just like there's so much responsibility I felt on my shoulders. And I'd never done anything like that before, but it was so gratifying to see, 400 people roll up to this tiny little town.
Yeah.
There's a lot of work that goes into that kind of stuff. And I think people forget that the music machine is more than just the band. There's travel, trucks. There's just so many people that are in the employment line of touring and doing all that stuff. It's a huge business, and you've got to be quite strong to be in management and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and in present day now, I work for a couple of different artists. I work for a country artist named Corey Marks. I just do sound, and we're planning to go to Europe in March. And then I'm a tour manager. I'd say this loosely, but I tour manage a band called Lowest the Low. They kind of like are a self-managed band. It's almost like a collective. Everybody kind of has a job. And my job is basically to make sure that we get to the venue on time and make sure that we're set up and make sure that they take care of all the other superfluous stuff, you know. But that band Lowest the Low is a band that's iconic 90s band from Toronto, who actually I did a documentary on. Which is on Apple TV in Australia as we speak.
Oh, wow.
And yes, and it was downloaded 4 times, I found out. But so we got
5 today.
Yeah, it's called Subversives: The History of Lowest the Low. It was a 3-year project over the time when people aren't really talking about. It started with a P, where we're not going to mention that because it was a horrible time in life.
We call it the inconvenience here.
Inconvenience. Yes, the naughty P word.
Yeah.
So it was done over 3 years, and it came out May of 2024 on Apple TV and on YouTube, and it's on Blu-ray. You can buy it on Amazon with Blu-ray and things like that. So if I'm gonna push anything, that's the thing I'm really kind of like. I'm doing more video now than I did with audio, I think. Even though January is my busiest year right now with recording bands. I'm recording 3 bands this month.
Wow.
But yeah, that's me as a manager. I never really was a manager. I managed my own band, but it was really tough being the artist who manages their own band, because it's really easy to be a manager and sort of make these weird requests in the name of the band and everything you're saying is prefaced by, well, these guys, you know, they're a little difficult to work with. But I'm the guy saying, no, I just want to get my record advance. That's all I want. You know what I mean? But then I'm a monster because so I become hard to work with because I'm making demands that are literally on a contract that I'm trying to push for. But then you become like a dick that's hard to work with. But you're like, no, I'm just the guy working for the interest of the band I play in. It is a bit of a conflict at times, being a self-managed band.
I agree. And what you said earlier about promoters, look, I can't tell you how many times we've, as a touring artist, had deals lined up, and you get to the gig and they promise you $500, and then he's trying to give me a sheet of acid trips instead. And I'm like, dude, now you're trying to make me like sell illegal stuff to get the money that you actually owe me. Like, what is going on here? Like, come on. And sometimes they're not going to budge, and you're stuck, and you take the acid trips. Unfortunately, you end up taking half of them before selling them.
You should never try your own supply. That's what they
exactly.
That's what we learn out of all this.
Absolutely.
You don't wear your own band T-shirt, and you don't do the acid that the promoter gave to you. That's what we learned today, everybody, boys and girls.
We've learned plenty. Let's play another track. If you've just joined us, we've been very privileged today. We got a whole lot of tracks that have been unheard, and we're getting to hear these first time ever. They're coming out soon, so I'm going to play winners. Let's go with that one. I'm just picking at random. Let's do it. So let's, folks, enjoy, kick back. Let's do it now.
When I let go, feeble trope, space that seems too far away. It's been 10 years gone by since you asked why. Don't let go. Our attention to what's at stake. We've never had too much to say, and I want you to know it's all a show. Don't let go. For good criticism and all bad decisions, decisions, it always ends up the same way. We need to try harder, treading in deep water. Eventually it drags you away. We can't all be winners if you can't decide what side to fight for. It's not what lines we finish, or even finding out what's the score. What's the score? Read the room, don't be fooled. Tragedies are worlds away, a pleasant place with dreams to chase, to enthrall, to force a change. Not what you read, but what you sow. Don't let go. It's never been easy with clear lines repeating, facing facts and bitter untruths. The blame is held inside you and always there to remind you the beaten, battered fabric of youth. We can't all be winners if you can't decide which side to fight for. It's not what lines we finish, or even finding out what's the score. Side to fight for. It's not what lines we finish, or even finding out what's the score. We can't all be winners. We can't all be winners.
What a fucking beautiful song. Good
Thanks,
God.
man.
The production in that is so slick. Vocals sound great. Lyrics are just so uplifting, man. That's a winner. That's a really good song. That was when you sent me the songs. I listened to them all, and that one just grabbed me. I was like, "Fuck, that's it. That is such good songwriting right there."
Thanks, man. Now that one is about everybody gets a trophy now. You know what I mean? So we all obviously, and as we get older, you got to kind of like understand like where you fit in the world, and that's sort of how that song kind of. That's the newest song I wrote. I wrote that song in like March last year, so it's a new one.
It's beautiful, beautiful stuff. Now, so at the moment you have a company now. So I guess is it Apologue Productions?
Yeah, that's sort of it started off as a podcast.
Sure.
So
Tell us.
I started, yeah. So the podcast started about 10 years ago. I always sort of thought, it'd be kind of fun, and I didn't, like to do a podcast is like it's a commitment that people sometimes don't realize. Like it's a thing, and I'm sure you can relate to this.
Totally.
That it's a lot of preparation. It's like a lot of like whiteboarding. Like how are we going to do this? How are we going to? What's this going to be like? And I kind of model it a little bit along to like the Mark Maron WTF podcast stuff, and it's conversational. I talk with a lot of people who are in the industry, the music business, and or musicians, or and it's a conversational long form thing, and a lot of the world's issues are solved at about the 35-minute mark. So where people start realizing like, hey, you know what? And then that's what I love about it is that I meet people for the first time. And when we realize that we're all like we're on the same team. Like we're all like artists trying to like do something. We're all trying to like achieve something. And whether that means I can help them or they can help me. That's how that, I've had people on the show that I never thought who would be on the show, and like weird nerdy ones. Like I had the guy who invented the Raspberry Pi computer.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
Evan Upton. Yeah, I asked him, and he said, "Sure, I'll come on your show." He hasn't come back, but but and I had the guy. There's a theater software called QLab that I had the guy on my show who basically started QLab. These are nothing to do with music, but the same kind of theme happens where people take nothing and turn it into something, and then it becomes either profitable or their passion. And that's, to me, that's art. That's what art is all about, is taking this thing of nothing and making it into something awesome, or just something. That's art.
People love a good story. They back in the day, we didn't have this immediate medium, to be able to share these stories, and you had to sit there and wait for some publication to put out an interview with somebody, and then you would get these little skerricks about people, which really didn't help. It kind of kept things more mysterious. These days, we have the ability to tell stories. Look at things like, Idol and all these stupid shows. It's never about the talent. It's about the fucking story. And that's what wins. People win these whole competitions over 3 months, and they're probably not necessarily the best singer. But boy, do they have a compelling story. And that's what makes what they're singing work,
Yeah,
And-
well, you just sort of hit it on the head. You hit the only really good thing about American Idol, or Idol, period, is that people are coming from nowhere.
Yep.
And they're getting a shot, and they're letting the people of the world decide if it's worth a shot. And you can't get more in a democracy than that, right? Like, people vote. And I know that sometimes they go out and they cherry pick a few of the stories because they know, but I mean, honestly, it's not all going to be amazing, but you have to have that type of that compelling story that becomes monetizable, if that's a word.
Yeah, and the other problem with those kind of shows is all the way through they're constantly saying to the artist, that was great, but we're not seeing you. We want more of you. And then the ones that at the end, they do it. They come out, you see who they are, it all matches up with the story, and then the prize is, here's an album that somebody else wrote. you go, well, that was a waste of time, wasn't it?
Yeah, I don't know if you ever saw, but there's a Harry Styles auditions on YouTube, and it's like Harry Styles, like, my mom thinks I'm a good singer, and he sang, and then actually Simon Cowell said something, and he sang it, and that instantly became a star. I mean, those moments you can't script that. That's just what happened in the moment. I mean, in a way, maybe what I am saying is that I don't mind American Idol. Maybe I'm saying that that's an okay thing. Huh?
Well, yeah, hey, look, I think the one problem that always irritates me with that stuff is the making content out of people who aren't so good. And
roasting people because they suck.
Turning them into lolcows, virtually television lolcows, where it's like, hey, and then they bring them back at the end and go, hey, let's give them a song at the big finale where we showcase how shit they are. It's like, oh, really?
Yeah. There was a whole TV show, I think in their mid-2000s, that was based on how shitty the artist was. Yeah. And they were amazing, but they were lying to them for the whole show until the very end, when they had to tell them, like, no, you're actually really bad. I mean, you're asking people to literally jump off a bridge right now. Like, this is the worst. It made for interesting content, but I think it kind of backfired. I only did one season, I think, but it was on like whatever, Much More Music, which is like the subsidiary to Much Music in Canada, the music TV. But it was like when the people and the host actually said, well, actually, you won because you were really bad. You could just feel even people in the audience like, whoa, we were not expecting that. Yeah. And it was like a moment of like, yeah. And I think it's funny in a way because you got some people that are super deluded. Like there's that one guy who's just, I'm at the party and all he does is dance. And it's like, okay, well, you need a little bit of that, right? You need a little bit of that, but don't bring him back,
You don't need to harp on it. Like, Yeah,
Yeah.
there's somebody like I know somebody. Not I've never met them, but I know them on Facebook. They went on one of these shows. They were a break dancer, and they're terrible. And everybody took the piss out of them so much and brought him back. It was a UK production, and I found him on Facebook and started watching his live streams. He's terrible. Like he sings now. He's just terrible. But I went looking further into why. Why is he doing this and why does he not see that he's terrible? All somebody needed to do was some digging, and I found a news article where he was like gang bashed by a group of 12 guys who hit him with blunt trauma. He had brain damage. They bashed his head in. And ever since, he now lives in this delusion that can be a personal trainer, is teaching people how to sing, is an amazing break dancer. None of this was shown on that show. It was just, here's this goofball, everybody laugh at him. And it's like, motherfuckers, very, very odd choice of, but that's television. I've worked in television and it's a fucking strange medium.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too is I just saw it on Instagram. These two kids, they're like 18 years old, and they are singing horrible music. It's like bad Blink-182, and it's like the song's called "It's Okay" or whatever, and it is shite. It is the worst thing, but it's the most like interesting thing to watch right now because it's that bad. But they came on, like they were posting, people like, this is horrible, this is garbage, and they've actually invented that word. They introduced me to a word, rage, like rage comments, because that is how they've learned how to cheat the algorithm by making people so mad at them, and they're like loving it. And then all of a sudden they're like blowing up on Instagram, they're blowing up on Spotify. They're horrible. But I mean, they've learned, and we've all learned something here, is that this is exactly what they've figured out, a way to hack the system to make their horrible music rise to the top somehow. And I commend them for it. I don't care if they're shitty, amazing, but they figured it out. Because there's a lot of people with a lot of talent out there trying to make a go at it for legitimate reasons.
Yeah.
But these kids figured it out, and I'm like, I applaud you guys because that is the ballsiest thing ever. And they know it. They know they suck, but it's the best. It's the best thing ever.
It really is indicative of where we're at, like with entertainment. Like even here on YouTube, it's, I try to be as, uplifting and encouraging people, but the majority of stuff here on YouTube that does well just shits all over people. The number one channels are all like, let's do a documentary on this YouTuber who sucks and this is what they did wrong. And you're going, wow, everything is so just dogpile on this person, and that's what gets you views. We're in a very strange place at the moment.
It's going to get weirder too. Like it's not going to. People are going to sort of wake up and go, you know what? I'm not going to type weird things on the internet anymore. I'm not going to say stuff how bad from a faceless point of view. I've learned. I'm 55 this year, and I'm like, I know that don't engage with flat earthers. You can read all the stuff. It's all funny because I truly think that there's people out there who want to make people mad at you, at them, and they're doing it to get an attention. I think it's like some sort of dissonance. Like I feel there's more conspiracy about it than I think anything else, like UFOs. But I think there's like a movement out there to create this sort of fracture in our universe that people truly believe that the Earth is flat. The fact that they got an orange monster south of us who somehow is a convicted rapist who is now like the president of the United States. I think it's who wants to bring us in as the 51st state, Canada. He wants to change Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. These are all things that people are like, yeah, that's what we should do. And then, and for that, I say all that shit that you put us through over the past 3.5 years, it worked. So what do you do? How do you do it? You don't fight it with that same type of like rhetoric. You have to just sort of sit back, eat the popcorn, read the comments, do not engage. Yeah. Because there's no way you're going to win because the Earth is flat to some people, and that's okay.
Yeah. The latest, yesterday I was watching a whole thing on this new fog. There's a fog that's like I fell down this rabbit hole yesterday. This fog, it's full of viruses. They're spraying us all with it, and And it's like, no, that's just fucking fog. it's not anything new, folks. Like it's the seasonal fog.
It explains San Francisco to me, man.
Yeah.
It does now. Fog just comes in. You're like, whoa! All of a sudden, it was sunny. No, it's foggy. It's the government that's making it more foggy and giving you less brain cells and making you believe I'm flatter Earth.
They're turning the frogs gay. That's what it is.
Gay Frog. That's the name of my indie rock band, the Gay Frogs.
Oh wow! Yeah, just surprised he hasn't reached out to you and tried to sign a deal. Oh, he's probably got no money. That poor guy.
Yeah.
So look, when it comes to podcasts, do you get excited about doing the podcast and interviewing people? Like for me, I'd just say this is my highlight each week. I've got to speak to so many. I just love this so much. I love engaging with people and having these conversations. What is it for you to do these interviews or podcasts, whatever you want to call it?
I really enjoyed building the system. I really like building, getting involved with like WordPress and figuring out plugins and figuring out, and as you know, as an elderly person, I sort of elderly in the tech world, I took it upon myself to sort of learn what it is to do it for the cheapest way possible. And I really got a big rush out of it, and I'm still kind of do it for like under $120 a year. That's what this costs me to do a podcast. So I figured out a way to host all the files for free. I figured out a way to build everything myself. And then I got it all done. And I'm like, and then I did a few episodes and I'm like, holy shit, this is going to be like a real thing. Like I got to do more of these. And it was a bit daunting, to be truthful. I was like, oh, now I got to actually interview people. And luckily I connected with some publicists and some people who know people, because you can only talk to your friends and people you know. And I have a pretty wide reach of friends, but after a year, it's like you start running out of people.
Yes.
So I work a lot with publicists, and it's so funny because I get to the moment where it's like it's 8 o'clock, because I usually do them about 8 o'clock on a Thursday or whatever. That's where I do the podcast is after 8 when things sort of quiet down here at the house, and I get like watching TV at like 7 o'clock, and I'm like, oh God, I gotta do the thing. I gotta do the thing. So then I get there and I'm kind of like, oh shit, I hope this is okay, because I'm talking to a complete stranger. I hope this isn't a shit show, or I hope this is okay. I hope the person shows up. And then as soon as you get like 5 minutes into the conversation, you're like, this is the best thing in the world. I love it. There's nothing like it. I remember like after having like a couple of coffees and talking and getting up, I'm jazzed. I'm excited about it. And to me, it's like the closest thing to being in a band than I can even imagine. It's really rewarding. It's not for everybody.
No.
When I was promoting this documentary I did, I was speaking to some people, interviewed by people who were like, I had a press agent and he sent all the stuff out to the people. I talked to a guy and I'm doing this interview, and the guy's like, well, I've never heard of the band that you did this documentary on. Like really? So why are we talking? And he goes, I got about 15 minutes and then I gotta go do karaoke. I'm a karaoke host, like up in wherever, northern part of Ontario. I'm like, well, we don't. Okay. And that was the worst. And I remember the publicist calls me and they go, that was really bad. I'm really sorry. It's like, wow, this is the way it is, So there's good folks out there and there's shitty folks out there. But to me, I feel like my engagement is because I'm kind of on the level of the people I'm interviewing. I'm like, once they realize oh, this guy understands me, he gets me. And I do, for the better part, understand these people who I'm speaking to, because I was either there or I know who, you know what I mean? So I know what they're talking about. And I think that puts a lot of people at ease. And I think you as an interview, you do the same thing. You put people on the level that you're on, and you understand where they're coming, and it's a conversation. That's the best part of podcast, best part of it, because it's compelling, because people are getting along and they're figuring out what it means. And you don't need to always get along. Like I've had debates with people on certain things, and it's exciting. I love it.
Yeah, I love that you never know where it's going to go. I used to do interviews for publications, and I interviewed Kylie Minogue and lots of big artists, but you've got to then take that interview and then put that into writing form, and that's got to be sent to an editor, and then you lose so much of it. And then you go back and read it and go, fuck, man, there's no way I can convey that situation of me. I was in a hotel room with that person and the teapot that was brought in and the tea that we drank. That's all just gone. All that flavor's gone. And in something like this, it's raw and you're raw dogging it, baby. And that's where it's at.
Yeah, I love doing, like, it's like I said, it's the closest thing to playing music, because you're creating something, it's content, and people like to be a fly on the wall on some of these conversations, and they love the fact that it's like, oh, like we're talking about things that normally people don't talk about on the radio, whether it be like a band, like we start talking about bands, like we're talking about VoiVod, like VoiVod is like, a lot of people are like, what?
So
But
niche.
people in this group might know exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
We start mentioning names of bands and things like that. That's where people are like, hey, this is for me. This is my stuff. And as my podcast isn't huge, like, surprise, surprise. You know what I mean? It's just a guy. I'm a one-person show. I do fairly good. It breaks even. I have a Patreon, but it's not about. It would be amazing. It's like that Bon Jovi syndrome. It's like, fuck, it'd be so good to be like the opposite of Joe Rogan, like the success of Joe Rogan without the crazy right wing shit. Like, it'd be awesome, but it's probably not going to happen. Well, it's not going to happen, But I like doing it for my reasons, and I'm sure you're in the same.
Absolutely. Now I'm going to make sure everybody goes and checks this out. So this is on Apple TV. This is The Subversives with you as the director, and it's available now on Apple TV. I'm going to rent this tonight and give it a watch. Very excited. I think Brad said he's already seen it. So this is pretty cool. I mean, how cool is it to have your own film, man? That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, the other thing I really, really loved about this, like, I worked for Lois the Low. I was their tour manager, sound guy. I am still. But Ron, who's the lead singer, is like, he's a very feel it by vibe, and I called him one day. I said, has anyone ever done a documentary or thought about doing a documentary? And he goes, well, I'll ask the guys. And then 6 months goes by, and I said, what about that documentary idea? And he goes, okay, hold on a second. And I think he forgot to actually mention it to the band, because like 10 minutes later, he's like, yeah, that's great. Let's do that. And it's the same thing as like starting a podcast. It's like, well, what do I have to do? How do I do this? Like, I thought I had enough camera stuff. And so I went and purchased some camera gear and some lights and microphones and things. And I started putting this thing together right in the middle of that horrible thing that happened around 2020. And then I kind of like just took a whole bunch of time. I already knew how to video edit. I kind of had that part figured out, but the whole part of telling a story, what you do, like a lot of like YouTube tutorials and it's very funny. Like, how do you make a documentary? And I researched, I talked to some friends. As a friend of mine is like a professional director, and she's like, well, who's your editor? And I'm like, well, it's me. Well, you need an editor. Like, who's going to edit? Well, it's going to be me. I think, in fact, that's the part I enjoy the most, is editing it. And then so I took a few trips. I did a whole bunch of things. I put this thing together. And I also, the thing that I don't think anybody's ever done is I took the transcriptions from the movie and I made it into a book. So I also have like 134-page book.
Oh, wow.
Purchase with the documentary, and I kind of made it in lieu of a Blu-ray or a DVD, because I thought, well, nobody buys that stuff anymore. Nobody really wants to, watch a DVD. And it turns out I was correct, 100% correct. So I ended up licensing it to a company, and they put it out on Blu-ray, and then Apple TV and YouTube and things like that. So these are all like, it felt like the first time doing anything and having some sort of like an actual, like, some traction, like, where it's like, people are actually excited about this and I'm excited about it. And it wasn't me, it was the band I was doing it on. They have like a good karma. I call it low karma, where people like wanted to do something and help this project out. And I had a lot of help. Like, I had a guy, this guy, Andy Koyama, mix it. And he's the guy that recorded their first album in 1991. But I emailed him out of the blue, and he goes, sure, I'll do it. And he's like a major motion picture sound mixer. And he's like, I'm just finishing John Wick 4. So when I'm done that movie, I'll mix your movie. And I'm like, oh, great. and like unbelievable, like cheap, 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 cheap. Everything's cheap. And yeah, I did it. And I'm actually right now working on one with my friend Elliot. We're doing one on a blues guitar player named John Hammond. And he's his dad was responsible for like signing Bob Dylan. He's actually his dad is mentioned in that Complete Unknown movie as John Hammond,
Right.
but his son was John Hammond Jr. or John P. Hammond. And so his dad in basically signed Aretha Franklin, um, Bob Dylan, everybody. He was a Columbia Records guy forever. But so that's the thing I'm doing right now, where we're just in that halfway through the editing phase, and that's kind of what I'm working on right now.
Awesome stuff. So we're going to wrap it up here. We've got one more song to play. We'll go out with that. So, folks, The Subversives is out now on Apple TV. You've got an album about to drop. What has it got a title? What's the name of the album?
So I am next week releasing the first album from Foursquare that came out in 2001 called When Weeks Were Weekends.
Yep.
And the week after that, it's going to be a record that I recorded 10 years ago that never put out called 707. And then I'm putting out in 3 weeks from now, I'm putting out the what's going to be called the Brighton Beach EP. All of the records from Foursquare have 5 syllables in it, so it's called Brighton Beach EP. So that's a fun fact about Foursquare that nobody knows. So that's going to be like a 3-week release of things because I just did the DistroKid thing. So I'm like, well, this and there's another record it's probably going to remix and put out. It's our second record on Bad Taste Records called Industry at Home. I have to remix it and remaster it because we heard actually that Please Don't Go. It's a little dated sounding, so I've actually got all the master tracks and I'm going to remix it and re-upload it as sort of a 21st anniversary of that record. And that's what's happening musically over the next 3 or 4 weeks. And I'm also playing a show in Toronto on the 6th. So I wouldn't be offended if you couldn't make it out, Jade, you know.
I'll do my best. Well,
Put an effort in.
I got Brad coming out here from Canada in March. We're going to actually record an album together. So he's going to be here for 3 weeks. So I can't wait to write an album with Brad. I don't know if I'll be writing it with him. I'll be engineering it for him here in my studio because it's going to be great having him here. We're going to go out and play a song, but I need to ask you the question I ask everybody who comes on the show. It's kind of a bit of a favorite question here. Simon, if you were giving advice to somebody just starting out, making music, creative, video, whatever it is, when would be the best time for them to start?
I would say this is a thing it starts from when you're like a child. I think you see a live performance at your public school or something. It becomes somehow you catch a bug or somehow it becomes like a thing that it becomes your identity. I think there is no age really to start. I think the greatest thing would be to start at the age of 40 and sort of learn how to play music and learn how to. I think that's the better achievement than being a 12-year-old and sort of picking up an instrument because everything's so much easier when you're a child. I think there is no age appropriate time to start this thing. I really don't, and I wouldn't talk anybody out of it, but I would think sort of manage your expectations because it's not always the people that stick around are the people that put up with the most amount of garbage in this business.
So
the people
true.
that have seen it and can put it into perspective that, well, it could be worse. I mentioned Lois Lowe again, like their guarantees are the same over the past 5 years because I know I'm their tour manager. They're getting the same amount of money they got 5 years ago, but the cost of living's gone up by 20% since then, right? So, it's a tough go. And the people that stick around, either you turn into a prick or you turn into somebody who's not a prick and understands. It's tough to be, and I use this with I tried. It's not a pun, but to get jaded. See what I did? To get like that type of like fuck, this is never going to work out. This sucks. Those are the people that go get real jobs. And I say, go ahead, go get a real job. You know, this life is not meant for everybody. You know?
You got to love it. Like, you just have to. You have to breathe it.
This is all I do now. This is all I do. I used to work a regular job up until like September, October. And I'm out. I'm out of this whole rat race of like trying to like earn a pension and trying to like live like a normal person. I say pooey.
Nice one. That's how we're going to end it perfectly. Now I've got this. We're going out with a live track today. Do you know which one this is? It's in Live in Holland 2004. Set the scene.
So we're on tour. We're opening up for 10-Foot Pole, and we played this place in Holland that had a recording studio, as well as a 4-camera crew. And at the end of the show, they gave you this videotape and said, "Hey, here, thanks for playing our town." I'm like, talk about. Usually, you'd walk out with like maybe like a case of beer or something, but these guys gave us an actual like live recording for free.
Nice.
We got that, and the same thing we got in France. We played this place, and we got like a free multi-track recording of it. But to get like an actual video, and it shows us, and this is from 2004. So this is 21 years ago. So you think how forward thinking that is. They obviously probably live streaming like 20 years or 15 years ago when we were all trying to figure it out. You know, they're way ahead of their time. It was in Tilburg, the town, I believe, Tilburg. And so basically it's me 21 years ago with my buddies wearing a Crowded House shirt.
Nice.
That's a fun fact that I got in a thrift shop, and playing with the original, like this is like the hardcore version of the touring version of Foursquare.
Awesome. I need to let folks know what's coming up here on the channel before we get into this. So this weekend, the opening hour, I perform live for you each week. Last week, I did Mr. Bungle songs, and we had a bit of trouble with the live stream. But this week, Faith No More, folks. We're doing another Faith No More song show. I'm going to hand pick a whole bunch of Faith No More songs and scream my absolute nuts off and give you my best mic pattern that I can. So that is happening this week. We got a whole lot of app demos. I think there's a couple more app demos that'll drop pre-records for the next couple of days. Thank you all for being here live in the chat. If you're watching on the replay, do the stuff, like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. Thank you so much, Simon, for giving me your time. I know your time is valuable. Very, very honored to have you on the show. Love your music. And please, folks, all the links, all the things are in the description. Go click, 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 do clickety-click and check them all out, because there's lots of great stuff coming and great stuff to catch up on. Please hang on the end of this show so I can say goodbye to you off the air, Simon, if that's cool. And as I say at the end of each and every show, my friends, do the things that make you happy. Mistakes make you better. Let's all rise together. Stay awake, not woke, and let's OGG.
Sounds called Just Like Me. Since you've been a bad heart, you took her out and came home late. She told her dad not to late, and now these words are all I hear. I hate the way you think, I hate the way you smile, hate the way you talk, I hate your style. I have no doubt that things would work out if you were just like me. Down in his stone. Now she's at home and you're out late. You always tell her not to it, and still these words
Also, a big thank you to our sponsor for today, DistroKid. Remember, you can get your music released through DistroKid by following the links in the description. You get 7% off. What's up? Yeah.